Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's third video. So we're going to have a look at the weather for the next 10 to 14 days for today's third video. So day 10 will take us around the 13th of March. We'll be able to extend out beyond that. We extended GFS and ECM ensembles, may run it around a couple of weeks. Going to have a look at CFS V2 at the end of the video. The next 4 weeks, that will take us probably just about to the beginning of April actually now. So I shall get on with that for you very shortly. Just say that the first video released today was the summer sneak peek. So had a little sneak peek for summer 2021. Summer 21 updates will begin at the weekend. They'll be starting on Sunday. So have a look at the sneak peek for summer 2021. And also USA forecast has been released today as well. That's looking at the weather next 10 to 14 days. No live stream today. We're having a break from midweek live streaming for the time being, and also on a Friday night as well. Sunday live streams are unchanged, so that's the reason that we're doing the 10 to 14 day video as an upload, you know, rather than a live stream. Right, so if you're new to the channel, please can you sub, please like video as well, subscribe, tell your friends, family, everybody else to subscribe as well. Thanks so much everybody for doing that. Drop a comment up video, let us know what you think. If you sub, you'll be able to see future weather content. How exciting is that? Right, so let's begin with the Arctic oscillation observed and forecast chart. So the black line shows we've been with the Arctic oscillation, red lines at the end, where the GFS ensembles are forecasting the Arctic oscillation to go. So for most of the winter, the AO was in its negative phase. We did have a strong negative phase of the Arctic oscillation through most of the winter, reached its lowest point with the AO in the second week of February. That's when we went very cold, of course. Since then, the AO has been all positive. We're currently positive with the Arctic oscillation. In the next day or so, we are actually going to go a little bit towards the negative side, but then the AO really takes off as we go through the second week of March. Look at this, really, really positive Arctic oscillation, and that carries on probably into the middle part of the month. Some of those ensemble members of the GFS are actually going off the scale positive. Wow, how exciting is that? So, of course, the index is just reflecting that, so it doesn't drive anything in its own terms. It just tells what the atmosphere is doing. And when the AO is in its positive phase, so we've got low pressure over the Arctic and over the North Pole. When the AO is in its negative phase, we'll have high pressure blocking over the Arctic. The reason we had quite a cold winter, particularly across northern Europe, is that we had a negative AO with a lot of northern blocking. Remember, blocking drives the AO, not the other way around, but weather drives the index. But we did have a lot of blocking through most of the winter. That's the reason northern Europe had quite a cold winter along with a negative AO. But as we got to the end of the winter, the AO went positive. We lost the blocking. We set up low pressure over the Arctic. And so now, we are strongly positive with the Arctic oscillation in a more positive phase. At the same time, the NAO has been neutral to weakly negative through most of the week, as we see from the black line there. Right now, we're around neutral with the NAO as well. This is just measuring air pressure in the North Atlantic, by the way, between Iceland and the Azores. Now we see within the GFS ensembles now that we're going to go positive with the North Atlantic oscillation as we go to the second week of February. So we've got both the AO and the NAO going positive. That is a signal for westerlies and Atlantic-driven weather. Now, because we're moving into spring, westerlies don't necessarily mean that it's going to be really mild. If you get a very positive AO-NAO combination, like in the middle of winter, then that's usually, not always, but usually a signal for very mild weather. Once you get into spring, westerlies don't necessarily have to be all that mild, particularly if they're coming from, like, the North Atlantic. They're coming out of Greenland. When you get into the summer, of course, westerlies can be quite cool, actually. It can be the coolest wind direction, other than north, I suppose. But westerly can be quite a cool wind direction in the summer, with southerlies and easterlies tending to be hotter. So yeah, we're in that time of year now where a positive AO-NAO combination does not necessarily guarantee guarantee that it's going to be really mild. And we can see from the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles, actually they're trending, a little bit below average through most of the next week, really, or the next couple of weeks. At the moment, the upper air temperatures are above average, but they're going to go below average as we come towards the end of the week. We're going to bring in some cold air from the northeast with that. As we go into next week, we see there is a little bit of a tick up just there. That's only brief, associated with an area of low pressure and a warm sector. And once that pushes through, you see that generally the upper air temperatures are on the cool side again. Really, albeit with quite a lot of scatter, so there's probably a bit of a zonal sine wave going on as well, with warmer and cooler sectors alternating. But it is the idea that as you get further and further on into the spring, the things that we take as guaranteed in winter in terms of an AO-NAO combination being positive and producing mild weather does not necessarily carry on into the spring, and that's particularly true the further on you go into the spring and then into the summer as well. In terms of precipitation, we're looking at Harrogate today. I don't think I mentioned that, by the way, so we're looking at Harrogate today. Red line is a 30-year upper air temperature average for Harrogate. So yeah, a little bit on the cool side over the next week or two. In terms of precipitation, going to be a lot of dry weather for the next few days, but as we get through the weekend, particularly into next week, we'll start to turn more unsettled. There's quite a lot of precipitation spikes coming through with spells of rain and possibly, as it's relatively cool air mass, there might be a little bit of winteriness in there as well, particularly so for more northern parts of the country. Temperature anomalies on the 3rd through to the 11th of March. Going to be a little bit cold on average, not just the UK, but through many parts of Europe. Precipitation anomalies from the 3rd to the 11th of March going to be drier than average. They will start to turn or trend more unsettled, I think, in the coming days. Here's the latest info map from nullschool.net, showing that we remain under high pressure for the time being. All of the rain-bearing Atlantic weather systems are out in the Atlantic with the strongest of the winds as well. This is all where the low pressure is, but as we get through into next week, that low pressure will start to break through along with those west and possibly even northwesterly winds. Right, let's have a look at some charts then. So this is how the UK made. So on Saturday, under a ridge of high pressure, bringing lots of dry weather. It will be quite cold, especially at night, with some hard overnight frost. Into Sunday, that high pressure is sticking around for England and Wales. It's turning a little bit more unsettled in the north and west, but it's really early next week that a change starts to take place as low pressure starts to meander in from off the Atlantic. As we get through the 144 hours, which is Tuesday the 9th of March, it looks like we're basically breaking down the ridge and turning more unsettled. So how the GFS 6 said looks again under high pressure on Saturday. It will be dry but quite cold with overnight frost. Into Sunday, again the ridge is just weakening a little bit. It's not until early next week though that the low pressure system will start to break down the ridge. So by Wednesday we're turning wet and windy here with low pressure rattling in from off the Atlantic. That low pressure sweeps through to Norway and we begin to turn windy to a much colder northwesterly to almost northerly direction. So the second half of next week turns quite a lot colder with northwesterly winds probably bringing wintry showers into the north. It's some sort of secondary feature manages to push through and engage with that northerly, sort of northwesterly northerly airstream, then there is a risk of, a little bit of sleet or snow even further southwards. GFS 6 there doesn't actually bring any secondary features through, although it does look as though there might be some sort of weather system just there. There's an L engaged in the isobars there, so that might be some sort of trough, not producing much in the way of precipitation at this point, but it's the kind of thing that might develop into something, in future GFS runs that might develop into an area of low pressure and run in across England and Wales. Otherwise, just quite cold and showery, really, up to day 10. Beyond day 10, high pressure ridges up from the southwest, turns as mainly dry, but under this ridge, it will be quite cold with a risk of overnight frost. As we get through to the end of the GFS run, high pressure is back in business, this time sitting a little bit more to our east and starting to pull up something a lot milder from the west or the southwest. That's the 19th of March. GM looks like that. High pressure dominates weather on Saturday. Will be quite dry and cold in that area of high pressure. Into next week, the ridge is gradually getting broken down by low pressure coming in off the Atlantic. So around middle of next week turns quite stormy, wet and windy. This might be a named storm. We'll have to wait and see, but it certainly turns quite wet and windy through the middle of next week with gale force winds sweeping through the country and quite a lot of heavy rain as well. Moving up towards day 10, we stay quite cold and unsettled with low pressure continuing to plough in from off the Atlantic. That system coming through there is within quite a cold air mass, and I think certainly for northern Britain that could produce some snow as that sort of pushes in at around day 9 and 10. That's the 13th of March as far as we go with the GM. And then the ECMWF looking like this. Again, high pressure brings loads of dry and fine weather through the early part of the weekend. Early next week, we break down the ridge. And so by Tuesday, we'll begin to turn unsettled. Cold, wet and windy, really, by the time we get through to the middle of next week with the ECM pushing this weather system through. That'll take heavy rain and strong winds there. Behind that, wind turns to the northwest. Look at this little secondary feature developing along the jet stream. The ECM was doing that yesterday as well on the midnight run. There it is at midnight on Thursday. The ECM is still going for this little system running in across the south. That is the kind of thing that could produce some snow, you know, for England and Wales as it engages with the cold northwesterly air mass. So I was expecting that idea to be dropped today, but the ECM is still going for it, albeit not anywhere near as much snow on this particular ECM run. But it's something to watch. It's one to watch that if we do get this secondary feature running in around the middle part of next week. That quickly zips through by 216 hours, Friday 12th of March. We're back into this quite cold and showery northwest wind. As we get through to day 10, just something a little bit milder begin to push up from the southwest as this low pressure starts to move southwards to the west of Ireland. That starts to drag up a rather less cold or milder southwesterly. Here's the precipitation type forecast based on that ECM run from Meteo.com. So again, a lot of dry weather coming up over the next few days, but early next week begins to turn more unsettled. Batch of very wet and windy weather pushing through there as we get through into the middle part of next week. That gets out of the way and we're left in that cold, showery northwesterly air mass, and in comes this next sort of little secondary area of low pressure diving in from off the Atlantic. Again, there is a suggestion of a little bit of snow with that across England and Wales and even down in the south. It has toned it down from what it was showing yesterday, but you can expect chopping and changing with this, and it is definitely one to watch whether we could pull off a bit of a snow event around the middle of next week down in the south if we do get that secondary low pressure zipping through the south. It'll very quickly get out of the way, but it might produce some heavy rain or some heavy snow sometime around Wednesday night to Thursday, and then that leaves us in a cold and showery northwesterly wind as we go up to day 10. By day 10, the next batch of rains start to come in off the Atlantic along with a milder southwesterly wind too. Again, we can't show the options on the table within the ECM ensembles today from the Icelandic Metos. They're not updating at the moment, so I don't know what's happening there. Maybe we will not be able to show them anyway. It would be a pity if we can't, but we can only work with what we've got, of course. So once again, we should just move on to CFSV2. These are 500 millibar heights broken down into week periods. The first week period will take us from the 3rd through to the 9th of March. The coming week will be dominated by a high pressure, absolutely high and dry, with a lot of fine weather. We'll get colder as we get in towards the end of the week and the weekend. All change to week 2. The 10th through to the 16th of March. Low pressure then is up to our north-northwest. In comes those strong west-northwest winds. Quite cold as well as the air is coming out of Greenland from the North Atlantic. So wet, windy, unsettled and colder. Not unsettled for all that long though. Week 3, 17th to the 23rd of March, builds up the ridge out to our west, turning mainly dry, but winds will go sort of west-northwesterly around the ridge. So that one not as cold, probably getting a little bit milder and more settled quite quickly. And then week 4 is going to be the 24th to the 30th of March. Again, just high pressure really in the ascendancy, bringing lots of dry weather. So the CFS certainly doesn't want to carry this unsettled spell on all that long. We may be starting to see signs within the shorter range model output, particularly the GFS extended. We may be starting to see signs within the shorter range model output that will go back to high pressure by the time we get into the second half of March. We shall see about that. Next week, definitely looking quite cold and changeable and unsettled, though. If you enjoyed this video, please don't smash your like button. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to tell your friends, family, and everybody else to subscribe. Thank you so much for doing that. We are grinding to 11k subscribers. So yeah, if everybody subscribes me as a friend, we'll get to 11k that much quicker. Thank you so much to each and every one of you. And if you do subscribe, you'll be able to see future weather content. Drop a comment. Let us know what you think about this and all of our videos. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. Right then, so we're set up for westerlies next week. Definitely going to turn a lot more unsettled. There will be spells of rain, and it's probably going to be quite cold as well. There is a chance that we might get some snow in the second half of next week, but it will depend on whether we get one of those secondary features in, and if we do, how cold the air is as it engages with, it's that track will determine whether there is any snow in the second half of next week. But it is quite a cold and unstable northwesterly air mass that is setting up next week, and these situations can produce, a little bit of snow. So it's one to watch. No more than that at the moment, but one to watch. And then after that, probably going back towards higher pressure. And probably more settled and maybe spring-like in the second half of March. Right, that's it for today's videos. Tomorrow, I think we're going to do the guys whether it's March forecast for you. We also have a European outlook and a 10 to 14 day as well. So keep checking back to all of the keep checking back to the channel for all of the updates. But for today's videos, that's all for now. And thanks for watching.